best advice is always go to an authentic place to get the good Cuban sandwich.
Yeah.
Do not go nowhere else. No gas station, no 7-Eleven, nada.
That's why we're in Ybor City.
That's right.
That's right, we're in Ybor.
That's right,
We're
bro.
here.
Right.
Ybor City, a vibrant, flavorful community within Tampa, Florida. At the turn of the 20th century, thousands of people migrated to Tampa from Cuba to work in its bustling cigar factories. But in addition to cigars, Ybor City has become known for its decadent, layered Cuban sandwich. Ybor City is host to the annual International Cuban Sandwich Festival, which brings together thousands of sandwich enthusiasts and makers from around the world. I went down to Tampa to learn more about this iconic sandwich. I started at the Ybor City Museum, where I met Tampa native and food historian Jeff Hauk to hear the history behind this revered culinary tradition. So there's a lot of controversy about where the Cuban sandwich actually originated. What's your take on it?
It would be hard to say that a version of the sandwich didn't exist in Cuba, because it did. But it evolved every place that it went, and then when it came to Tampa is really when it kind of became the Cuban sandwich that everybody knows now.
With its origins dating back to at least the early 1900s, the Cuban sandwich is as popular now as it ever was. Just ask anyone. And so what, in your opinion, makes a great Cuban sandwich?
How much meat you put on the sandwich, because you can't put too much, you can't put too little. You got to be just right.
Has to be fresh, roasted pork, seasoned well.
Ham and salami. The salami is the Tampa tradition.
For me, the mustard makes all the difference. Okay. If you have a good mustard on there with the pickles, it's just a perfect Cuban.
We're talking about bright yellow mustard?
Bright yellow mustard.
Ain't no Cuban without no press.
Press the hell out of it. It has to have a thin layer of black on it, and that's the way I like it.
I like mine crunchy. I like the bread to be crunchy, man. Nice and soft when you hear that. Oh, yeah.
I think what really makes a Cuban sandwich is basically the Cuban bread. Yeah. Anything you put in it is fine, the Cuban bread, as long as it's Cuban bread.
Any Tampa native will tell you that the best Cuban bread comes from La Saguna Bakery in Ybor City.
Good Cuban bread should be like soft and fluffy on the inside, but then have just a little bit of a crust on the outside. Not a hard crust like Italian bread, but a crunchy crust made for the press.
At over 100 years old, this neighborhood institution produces over 18,000 loaves of Cuban bread every day. Needless to say, this place is busy. Inside, an army of artisan bakers work in harmony as ingredients become dough. Dough is formed into loaves, and loaves are baked into the bread that is the foundation for any traditional Cuban sandwich. One tradition that makes Cuban bread unique is the use of palmetto leaves to score the dough, which gives the finished bread its signature split.
You can see here they put the palmetto leaf on. We call these half loaves, so there's 2 leaves per loaf. They're 18-inch loaves.
So that's just something your grandfather did. It was like a traditional thing from Cuba?
It was my great-grandfather, and he was actually from Spain. He went to Cuba to fight the Spanish-American War, and while he was there, he learned this is how they were making Cuban bread there. So that's what he learned, and he brought it to Ybor City.
La Saguna Bakery was impressive, to say the least. But there's more to a sandwich than just the bread. And a regional rivalry has grown into a generations-long debate over which city in Florida makes the best Cuban sandwich. So in the short time I've been here in Tampa, I've heard a lot of buzz about Miami versus Tampa Cubans.
It's not even a competition. Tampa makes the best Cuban sandwiches. They originated here, they were perfected here, and the people are more passionate about them here.
We are different from the Miami Cuban sandwich, which they don't use the salami, but we in Tampa are the originators for the Cuban sandwich, which is with salami.
Tampa's the best for me.
Tampa, man. Tampa, Florida.
Tampa.
That's it.
Miami's better.
No, you know about Miami. You're never had a Miami Cuban.
You're about to get kicked out of the family pretty soon.
Is one right? Is one more authentic than the other?
They're both authentic to their own place. Miami's not wrong, Tampa's not wrong. There are plenty of Miami-style Cubans in Tampa. Would I call it a Cuban? It's close enough, but when I really want that Rosetta Stone experience, I'll get the original Cuban sandwich at the Columbia.
And with that, I was off to the famous Columbia restaurant, where fifth-generation owner and operator Andrea Gonsmart-Williams offered to teach me about the origins of Ybor City's beloved Cuban sandwich.
We encompass a whole city block. Okay. So we started at 22nd and we're almost at 21st, just to give you an idea.
The oldest restaurant in Florida, Columbia has been around since 1903, and they've been perfecting their Cuban sandwich since it first appeared on the menu all those years ago.
So the Columbia Saloon was opened in 1903. The original bar that's still here. Back then it was a mixta sandwich, not a Cuban sandwich. But as Ybor evolved, it became the Cuban sandwich because it's truly a representation of everyone that immigrated to Ybor City at the turn of the century. You got the ham, which is the Spaniards, the pork, which is the Cubans, of course the bread is Cuban too, the salami, the Italians, the mustards and the pickles are the German. And I say the Swiss cheese represents Ybor City because it was the melting pot.
Right, yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
I love that. Andrea was kind enough to take me into the kitchen and teach me how to make Colombia's famous Cuban sandwich.
You want to make sure every bite has some mustard in it.
So why not put mustard on the bottom of the bread first?
Because then it'll distract away from the taste of the meat. It's all about layering.
Too much, too little?
You were a little aggressive with the mustard, but it's okay. 2 pickles.
Just 2?
Yes, 2 pickles. We try to aim for them to be about 1 inch in from each side, down to a science. It literally says it in the recipe like that. Brush it with butter.
Okay.
And then we're just gonna let that bad boy press until the desired crispiness.
Looks good, except for this one that's got the mustard bleeding out the side.
You want me to take it out for you? My father would not approve of that.
Well, he's not here, is he?
No, he's already gone home for the day. There we go. That's our Cuban sandwich. It looks beautiful. You're like a pro.
I'm like a pro, but not quite a pro.
Should we take a bite?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.
It's good ham.
It's great ham. You did a good job.
I see what you mean about the mustard, though.
It overpowers it then.
That's so great. Thanks for taking the time to do that.
Absolutely.
Columbia Restaurant is truly an institution in Ybor City, and their Cuban sandwich is considered by many to be the gold standard. However, I knew that soon I was in for a dizzying variety of Cuban sandwiches at the festival.
Cuban Sandwich Festival 2022. Welcome.
2022 marked the 11th annual Cuban Sandwich Festival. And with each year, the festival has grown to include dozens of vendors, not only from Tampa, but from around the world. We're going to walk around crushing sandwiches. It's going to be great.
Absolutely.
How can I help you?
1 Cuban, please.
You want the Tampa or Miami Cuban?
I think we're going with Tampa.
Tampa.
Tampa Cuban?
Yeah.
What makes your sandwich different?
My hands, my God-gifted hands. This is
God-gifted
all I
hands.
got, man.
All you got is your hands and your sandwich.
That's it.
And I don't break them for nobody.
No, that's it.
Thank you, brother.
All right, buddy.
Take care, man.
Okay.
All right, we didn't get a cut.
We didn't get a cut.
So do you
We
want
could
to
go
do
Lady
like
and the Tramp like this?
Lady and
no,
Tramp?
No, we're not Lady and the Tramp in this one.
All right, here, I'm going to take, I'll eat from this end.
You start from the north, I'll go from the south. How about
right.
that? Well pressed, man.
What kind of animal are you eating a sandwich in the halfway?
What kind of animal is Tony Montana?
I'm going to make a half-point deduction for not cutting it.
Here's a perfect example about the architecture of the sandwich. How you cut it matters in the enjoyment of the sandwich. I had to eat it like a harmonica, like I was an animal. You went at it from a polite northeastern standpoint, but you know, my mouth was ready to go from the point of the bias.
You're an old school harmonica player.
Yeah,
That's,
exactly.
All right, let's get another
Let's
one.
get another one. Ready? So it's definitely cheesy. What else are you getting?
It's rich. I do love the cheese sauce, though.
How do you not like a cheese sauce? And I think it's really smart to try and make it a Swiss cheese sauce. But you see, when you get one of those elements more than the other, it's a different sandwich.
Let's go eat another one.
All right.
So what makes your Cuban sandwich unique?
It is a pork. We slow cook it 8 hours, marinated with real sour orange, real garlic, homemade mojo.
Homemade mojo,
Yeah, it
okay.
really comes out nicely.
Wait, a lot of people not make their own mojo?
Listen, in Tampa, you can get mojo in a jug, and people do, or they get it from, you know, a food distributor. You make your own mojo, the flavor is just that much more intense and better, and you can put your little fingerprint on it.
I agree.
The salami's on the bottom here.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna eat it from the point, right?
I'm gonna go from the traditional direction, yes. Okay. You can taste the mustard on the top. I don't really notice the salami on the bottom, but
I got salami in my bite. But what I really like is that the pork is really moist.
it is. It's very moist.
Yeah.
I mean, that hits all the right notes. Whatever bread he's using, I like it a lot because it's super crusty,
Yeah.
but then it's super tender inside. He's
Yeah.
pressed it just right. In fact, give me this.
Jeff and I eventually had to take a break from the festivities to judge sandwiches competing for the best in the world.
It's the first one I'm picking up mustard. If I didn't have to eat 24 more, I would go back and take another bite.
Yeah.
Get a lot of sweet. It's like a Cuban hot pocket.
Yeah. I'm breaking out the meat sweats here. And the Florida sweats. After dozens of delicious variations of Cuban sandwiches, the time had finally come to crown winners for the best classic sandwich and the best sandwich overall.
And for World's Best Tampa Historical Cuban Sandwich, first place winner is...
Kosi! Kofi! This is a third year in a row for her, so congratulations.
Matina, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
This is the third year in a row you won the
is.
title for
It
traditional
is.
Cuban sandwich?
Yes.
What makes your sandwich so special? What makes it a winner?
We slow cook it. We don't actually do the smoking of the pork. We actually cook it in a crock pot with our own homemade mojo sauce. So it cooks usually between 16 and 20 hours before we put it on any sandwiches.
That's
amazing. It's literally like butter.
Wow.
And we opened March of 2020. So to be able to beat 3 years in a row when you opened the day before a pandemic is massive.
What's the name?
Cozy Coffee Cafe.
Cozy Coffee Cafe?
Yes, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we've been waiting for. Our search for the best Cuban sandwich. First place.
First.
Cuban sandwich goes to
Concierge Chef
It's Chef Ileana, ladies and gentlemen, the world's best Cuban sandwich.
All right, Ileana, congratulations on the big win here today.
Thank you so much. It's actually incredible. We are so surprised because, it takes a lot of hard work, and it's been 2 years since the pandemic since we actually were able to come back out.
That's great. And what makes your sandwich special?
Instead of sliced cheese, we make a cheese bechamel with Swiss. And so it's more like Philly cheesesteaky kind of vibes to it. It's very different in texture when you eat it.
Okay. And all the other ingredients are pretty standard?
So we do a 12-hour braised pork butt with blackened seasoning and mojo sauce. And then we do the cheese sauce, of course. We have a special secret remoulade where we add the pickles into the remoulade so there's no actual sliced pickles.
Nice.
And then we do serrano ham.
Oh, very cool.
Yes.
It's a high-end sandwich. It's very
It's
fancy.
pretty good. And the bread is, of course, from the best bread factory on the planet, La Saguna in Tampa, Florida.
What's so special about Tampa? What makes it unique?
It has its own unique history, its own flavor profile that no place else has. There's all kinds of great ingredients here in terms of food, but also people. There's nothing like it, I don't think, anywhere in the country, much less Florida.
One thing's for certain, Ybor City is a place like no other, and its tapestry of culture and cuisine is as fascinating as its signature sandwich is delicious. I had an awesome time here in Ybor City. I ate a ton of great Cuban food and a whole lot of Cuban sandwiches. If you like what you saw, put some mustard on that like button, and if you have your own hot takes about what makes a great Cuban sandwich, throw it down in the comment section below.
I just think fighting over food is dumb. It just is. It's food. It is a lot of wasted energy that could be spent eating more Cuban sandwiches.